Welcome to the Unorthodox Bible. Miles Grant here. Hope you're well. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you may know that I have been a life coach for many years, and have recently, in a really strong way, returned to faith and been going to church consistently, and was baptized in July. And at church, literally this past week, I got a really strong calling to start turning my content into being more messages from the Bible, because for a very long time I believed that all personal development fundamentally is a bit like a stream from high, in the sense that when a stream from high in a mountain or wherever it is, a valley, ultimately goes back to the sea, which is the source. And I think a lot of personal development is, kind of derived from biblical text. So I thought, well, rather than pretending like anything that comes out of my mouth is original, I thought let's bring in some Bible and share with you kind of an unorthodox take on some Bible verses. So stay tuned. A lot of this, by the way, if you're not a biblical person, or you're not a religious person, or a spiritual person, or a Christian person, I think a lot of it is still, as I always say, very common sense, but not necessarily common in practice. So today's verse I pulled from a book in the Bible that I'm really passionate about, which is the story of Job. Job, very much a searcher, a person who, it kind of reminds me of a book by Paulo Coelho called The Alchemist. And I feel a little bit like Job, in the sense that I've spent a very long time in my life kind of wanting, searching, and looking for answers to how to make my life better, and looking specifically for answers on the outside. And it reminds me of a great story by Wayne Dyer, who talks about, if you may have heard of this story, motivational speaker, spiritual, the late great Wayne Dyer, who said he once was at home, and he looked out his window, and a neighbour was looking lost outside in the dark. And Wayne kind of thought, I better go out and see what's going on. He goes out and says, pretend the guy's name's Roger. He says, Roger, what are you doing? He said, why are you out here on your knees? He was like on his knees, kind of scrambling around in the dark. And Wayne says, well, what are you doing? And Roger says, well, I'm looking for my keys. Can't find my car keys. And then Wayne says, well, where did you lose them? And he said, well, I lost them inside. And Wayne says, well, why are you looking for them out here if you lost them inside? And Roger then says, well, there's light out here. And the moral message of the story from Wayne Dyer is very much that, isn't that how a lot of us go through life? For a very, very, very long time in my life, I've been looking for the light and the answers to make my life better on the outside, rather than looking in here, right? Or, you may have heard the metaphor of, sometimes we're trying to open the door of success, and we're kind of trying to open the door that way, and actually the way to open it is inward, right? It won't open that way because it's an inward opening door. And so this particular reference from Job is from Job 17:12, and it says, but my friends say night is daylight. They say that night is near, but I know, they say that daylight is near, but I know that I remain in darkness. And I thought that, is so appropriate for me at this particular stage of my life. Over the past few years, I've achieved some really, really, really great stuff. Like I had a life coach training business that, did £500,000 in its first 18 months. But it wasn't making me happy. Tony Robbins has a great quote, which is, success without fulfillment is really the ultimate failure. And a lot of the things that came out of me achieving that success were, kind of damaged relationships, conflicts, and just a lot of issues. And subsequently, earlier this year, at the time of doing this video, me and my business partner parted ways. The relationship wasn't fundamentally working on an emotional level, which was because there was a lot of unresolved stuff in me from childhood, around kind of abandonment wounds from dad not being there, and not necessarily mum, the way she was raised. My mum was not emotionally available in the way that you would have a child would necessarily need, because my mum didn't have that herself, right? And so when I read this verse, and I read it again, but my friends say night is daylight, but they say daylight is near, but I know that I remain in darkness. It just makes me realize how I've spent a very, very long time in my life striving for external success. And the reason I've been striving and the reason I've stayed in darkness and have not truly been happy is because I've been looking for some sort of external approval, validation, desire to fill the abandonment void. Fundamentally, what I've been looking to do is try and heal my inner child. And there's no achievement, there's no success, there's no external thing that will ever heal if the problem is within. I have, and I don't mind saying this, I have a very fractured relationship with my mum. And that actually has been really great to become really aware of that this year. I've been doing a lot of deep forgiveness work. If you're familiar with the Ho'oponopono principle, which is by a doctor called Hugh Len, who was a psychiatrist in the 1960s, I believe. And he went to a particular mental hospital, and he didn't actually actively engage with the patients. He just sent kind of healing towards them. And he made a decision to see them as well and healed. It was a really, really dark environment. There was a lot of staff that were leaving, that just couldn't handle it. There was a lot of patients that were physically and emotionally abusive. And in a short period of time, by Dr. Hugh Len doing this kind of Ho'oponopono Hawaiian forgiveness practice, he was able to heal the relationship. And I've been doing a lot of that myself, because I recognize that there's been a lot of anger, there's been a lot of pain, there's been a lot of kind of unhealed kind of trauma that's been inside me that needs to heal. And so when I read this verse about, but my friends say night is daylight, when I read that, it's it just reminds me of any time I've ever seen a mentor, whether that be a mentor I know or someone online that says, this is the way. I found, looking back and on reflection, recognizing that this is the way may be success, right? Because if you want to build a business, I'm the first person to say, get a mentor that's already done that, right? This is the way. But the problem is, if you have a darkness inside of you, if you have pain, if you have anger, if you have emotions that are unresolved inside of you, then your friends, mentors, colleagues, peers saying this is the way will never heal that darkness. I love this saying from Deepak Chopra, which I wrote down for the point of this video. I wanted to remember it. Who said, and I haven't wrote it exactly, I just kind of wrote the word down, so hopefully I don't butcher his saying, but he says along the lines of, when it comes to people that you hold a grudge against or anger, it's holding anger, he says, is like drinking poison and hoping that it's going to harm or kill your enemies. It sounds stupid, but it's a beautiful illustration of how if there's a darkness inside of you, then it doesn't matter how much light you obtain, achieve, acquire on the outside. If there's still a darkness inside of you, as there has been in me, then you'll never truly be happy, peaceful, contented, joyful, accepting, insert any positive word that constitutes a better emotional pattern. So I think there's some key things that I want to kind of leave you with this particular video. Obviously, you know, picking up and reading the Bible's helpful because, you know, if nothing else, you might read a random verse and it might give you a lesson or a learning. I believe meditation is really key because I was having this conversation with a guy in the gym yesterday who's not a meditator, and he said, give me an explanation of meditation that will maybe make me more inclined to do it. He said, because I can't seem to get my thoughts to stop. And I went, that's where you're wrong, right? I said, meditation is like working at a supermarket and scanning items. And as you scan each item, you observe the item, like you put it on the barcode and bleep it through, right? I said, that's what meditation is. It's about observation. So spending time observing the darkness that's inside of you is a really powerful first step to letting that go. And the second is to journal about the darkness. I recommend a journaling app I use called CBT Journal. They've got an amazing AI one in there now where you literally type something in and it sends a prompt back. It's almost like a life coach coaching you, right? And I'm big into that because I'm a life coach by profession. And it's really, really powerful. But there's some really, really good journaling prompts in there that I think you'll find really powerful. And I found that journaling before bed and first thing in the morning is a really, really powerful thing to do because it really helps you to kind of almost like if you imagine you've got a computer and it's got like multiple tabs open. When you journal, it's like closing down all the tabs. It's like purging out all of your thoughts. So when you go to bed, there's not as much kind of running in your mind, right? So freaking powerful. And that's it. Meditation, journaling, they're my two key things. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. A little bit different to what I would usually do, but still along the same lines of content. Let me know what your thoughts are in this. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What do you take from that verse? Are you a Bible reader? Do you read the Bible? I'd love to know. I'd love to hear from you and how this has added value to you. I hope it has in some way today. That's it from me. I will see you back here tomorrow. Take care. Goodbye.